InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. In today's podcast, looking at a few public company announcements from PureEck Holdings Corporation, trading on the TSX Venture as PKAN, Emerald Health Therapeutics Incorporated, trading on the TSX Venture as EMH and the OTCQX as EMHTF, Speakeasy Cannabis Club Limited, trading on the CSE as Easy, IKNK Farms Incorporated, trading on the CSE as IKNK.U, and KHRN Life Sciences Corporation, trading on the TSX Venture as KHRN, and the OTCQX as KHRNF. First, looking at PureEck Holdings Corporation, who announced it's entered into a brand partnership with leading cannabis and CBD retailer Chemesis International Incorporated, which is trading on the CSE as CSI and the OTC as CADMF, under which PureCana's industry-leading CBD products will become available at hundreds of proprietary Chemesis kiosks throughout the U.S. Now, as a result of this partnership, PureCana's industry-leading range of products, including its flavored pure hemp-derived CBD oils, sleep aids, immunity boosts, vegan CBD-infused gummies, soothing CBD-infused topical creams, and CBD capsules, will become part of a permanent product offering for Chemesis AI-powered Vicky Intelligent self-checkout platform. Now, Chemesis Vicky kiosks can be deployed in high-traffic areas like shopping malls, workplaces, and transit hubs, and feature proprietary technologies to enhance the cannabis retail experience, including age verification, loss prevention, product education, and AI-powered virtual assistant technologies. Now, our partnership with Chemesis accelerates our omni-channel distribution of the PureCana brand. CBD education, innovation, and availability are foundational to our mission to enable wellness authentically every day to our loyal customers, said Kathy Casey, the CEO of PureEck Holdings Corporation. Now, PureCana is a highly regarded brand by consumers and within the industry for their quality and their well-branded products, said President of Chemesis Josh Rosenberg. Now, this partnership will allow Chemesis and PureCana to develop a cohesive strategy to bring high-quality products to consumers through an alternate route to market. And working with strong brands such as PureCana will give the Vicky platform another edge over typical brick-and-mortar dispensaries. For PureEck Holdings there and PureCana specifically, I'm going to be launching their brand through the Chemesis Vicky kiosks. And I've talked a little bit about the different sort of kiosk options that are popping up throughout the States. We still haven't seen this within the Canadian cannabis retail space yet, and that's mainly just due to regulations currently right now. But I think that eventually you will see some of these kiosk platforms get adopted into pretty much every market for the global cannabis industry. I do like that, again, they have the ability for age verification, for education, for product knowledge, etc., all through a single serving access point. And I do think that, again, when you're looking at the overall market, having access to these kiosks and having kiosks available is going to become fairly essential for a lot of certain types of product sales. I wouldn't say the entire industry sales should be going through these kiosks, but the vast majority, especially CBD products, should be available at sort of a simpler access point, and these kiosks offer that. Again, there's a few other competitors within the sort of retail kiosk space in the U.S. Talked a little bit about them in the past, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over time, especially with what we've seen over the last sort of year and a half with COVID restrictions for brick and mortar retail in both the U.S. and Canada being fairly heavily impacted as far as the types of protocols that each of these retail providers needs to then instigate in their stores. So again, I do think for a lot of them, having a combination of sort of these quick access kiosks as well as having the actual bud tender retail will be beneficial to the entire industry, and that you can have maybe your pre-rolls, CBD products, the drinks. I do think all of those should be kind of going right through those simple kiosks, whereas maybe some of your premium flower where you might ask more specific questions, or looking at concentrates, where again the buyer is going to be a little bit more picky, I guess, with what types of products they're looking for. So I think there will be a need for both overall, but I do think when you're looking at a lot of the low-cost, medium-cost products, going through one of these kiosk platforms is going to be much more beneficial in the long term. Looking next to Emerald Health Therapeutics Incorporated, who has launched its new product line Sync tabs an innovative, naturally flavored ingestible offering consumers a controlled 10 milligram THC dose with predictable onset and offset time. Now, this product line expands its offering under its Sync trademark wellness brand and is the second of Emerald's defined dose trademark products. And the first provincial purchase orders have been received, and beginning April 13th, the tablets will be available to consumers at licensed cannabis retailers and online in BC, Manitoba, Newfoundland, and Alberta. Now, Emerald's Cannabis 2.0 and 3.0 strategy focuses on leveraging scientific-based innovation to serve targeted consumer preferences. And this differentiated new product line builds on Emerald's commitment to offering consumers defined dosing and predictable actions that let them control their cannabis consumption experience. And these Sync trademark tabs are designed in a familiar tablet form that enables convenient yet discreet cannabis use. Now, with the 10 milligrams of THC, Sync trademark tabs offer consumers the measured stringency of Emerald's defined dose standard dissolve under the tongue in about 3 minutes and provide desired effects within 20 to 30 minutes. Now, offset is equally controlled, occurring within approximately 90 minutes of taking the tablet. And this new product line follows the introduction of Emerald's nano fast-acting spray product and the sublingual tablet added to the Sync brand's lineup of non-smoking forms of cannabis products, which will also include CBD and THC cannabis oils. So, Emerald Health Therapeutics have talked a lot about their sublingual tablets a bunch in the past. Again, there's a bunch of competitors within that space. Rapid Dose Therapeutics is one of the most obvious ones that comes to mind. But again, something that I've been discussing for a long time, which is having products that are going to have not only predictable onset time, but predictable offset time. This is still somewhat far-fetched. I don't know how consistent that 90-minute offset time is going to be. Also, 20 to 30 minutes for an increased onset time is still a little lagging. Again, you're seeing some of the beverages being fast-acting within the first 10 to 15 minutes. That being said, lower doses usually, and again, that's you're working with your sort of water-soluble cannabinoids. I believe the Emerald Health Therapeutics is also water-soluble through their nano-emulsion technology. But again, sort of guaranteeing that consistency for the onset and offset time is going to continue to be more and more of a goal for a lot of these companies. And I do think that as more and more of them start perfecting that, you're going to start to see consumer purchasing preferences change a little bit towards sort of these higher-end 3.0 products, which really give you a designer experience. Again, this is also going to be a lot more appealing to new cannabis consumers who are coming into this industry or coming into the recreational or medical space who maybe are more cautious about the actual psychoactive effects of THC, so they're going to be looking for something that's going to be guaranteed and consistent, and is also going to get out of their system within a certain amount of time. Our product development efforts are centered on providing consumers with distinctive cannabis products offering controlled, predictable actions with greater precision of dosing and onset and offset of effects, said Raiz Bandal, the president and CEO. Now, we have a talented product development team that's passionate about science and innovation, and they're moving additional new product lines toward launches planned for the next few months and quarters, which we expect to start positively impacting our growth. So obviously, again, this won't be the only product they're going to be launching, and this has been a goal of theirs that they've been sort of aiming for since inception. And there's a few, again, competitors within this space really focusing on the sublingual tablets and sort of dissolvable strips. And again, really focusing on having extremely predictable outcomes for these products. Again, I think that it's still a little bit further away from where these companies would probably hope to have their products end up. That being said, miles ahead of a lot of the cannabis products that you're seeing out on the market today. I would expect these to be well received within the provinces they've launched in. I'm sure that they'll be launching into Ontario soon, as Manitoba, Newfoundland, and Alberta do not have the same population density and aren't having the same cannabis sales that they sort of expressed early on in the launch of the industry in Canada. But I would expect to see more and more products like this, not even in just the sublingual tablet format, but in general when you're looking at beverages, cannabis 2.0 and 3.0 products. Obviously anything except for just pure extracts, I would expect that onset and offset time are going to start becoming much more narrower and much more precise. And again, that is going to lead to possibly a change in the overall consumer consumption buying. Moving on to Speakeasy Cannabis Club Limited, who announced it's entered the final stage of amending its sales license to allow for the sales of its extracts and concentrates. Founder Mark Green commented, "Extractions and concentrates are rapidly growing an important part of the cannabis market in Canada. We're eagerly anticipating our license that, once granted, will allow us to participate in this exciting segment of the market. And with our large inventory of flower, perfect for creating extracts and concentrates, we're eager to enter the consumer extract market that will become an important part of our business for years to come. And because of our low cost of production, we will be entering the market with the ability to be very competitive with anyone out there. And they are very busy and exciting times, and I'm thrilled that we will soon be able to show what we can do in this segment of the market." So currently, Speakeasy is licensed to sell its dried flower to consumers, and with the addition of its expected sales amendment, the company will then be well positioned to enter the market with a robust lineup of products, ranging from simple artisan-style concentrates to more complex live resin and vape carts. And formulations have been prepared, and brands are ready to launch upon receipt of the amendment. Now, keeping production and processing in-house is a critical way to keep costs low. Speakeasy, in partnership with Frontier Labs, produces, processes, and packages its own products without losing margin to other companies by contracting out to taking out the cost of shipping between facilities. And with Speakeasy's goal of competing directly with black market pricing, keeping costs as low as possible is crucial to our success. And starting with their low-cost input material, which is expected to be among the lowest in the industry, and carrying on to the finished product by using efficient, cost-effective methods completed in-house, Speaky is able to pass those cost savings on to consumers and be a strong competitor in the market. Founder Mark Green commented again, "Having a price advantage focusing on genuine high quality and branding that's rooted in the legacy BC market will give us the opportunity to stand out from the crowd. We are a unique company for many reasons, and I believe we will be able to make ourselves well known to all the right reasons across the country." So a lot of these sort of BC craft producers have been doing quite well as they've been launching products. Focusing again on the extract market is essential for any of these industry or any producer really right now. If you're not focusing on next generation products, again, you're seeing that the dried flower market is starting to slowly shift in Canada and more dramatically in the US. But in general, as I've said, you are starting to see sort of the changes in what products are being looked for and bought specifically and consistently through sort of standard recreational retail. You're moving away from, let's say, mid-range dry bud and moving towards, again, more niche cultivars and bulk dry bud as well. And even that, there's a lot of people still growing. There's a lot more people coming into the grow space as well. And I don't think you'll ever be able to compete with black market prices for dry herb. I think that that's potentially ridiculous unless you're looking at more of an international scale. Again, producers from Colombia, producers from Israel, producers from Africa. Once those importation, exportation sort of licenses become a little bit cheaper and more accessible, and once there isn't as much difficulty with the import and exporting of cannabis products into and out of different countries, and there's a little bit more of an international supply chain, I do expect that those types of areas are going to be competing quite aggressively with global illicit prices and are going to probably beat them quite aggressively. That being said, though, when you're looking at more provincially in Canada, at least, I don't believe that it'll ever be quite doable. But that being said, the illicit market is kind of suffering from its own problems right now of sort of self-cannibalism as more and more companies look to go into the legal market. You're seeing that the illicit sales really only have the option of competing on price anymore. The quality level that the recreational market is starting to provide now is competitive, if not more, or if not better than a lot of the products that you're seeing on the illicit market. And that's just strictly coming down to the facilities they have access to. Again, when you have $1 million facilities, $1 million extraction setups, especially looking at the Cannabis 2.0 products, this is where they're really starting to dominate what's available and what's accessible when you're looking at illicit products. Again, no offense to the shatter that's out on the market for illicit sales, but it just can't compete with a lot of the shatter products that are starting to come out onto the recreational market. The only way they are competing is on price, and again, this is sort of forcing the illicit market to sort of self-cannibalize in that everyone is trying to price gouge everyone else all the time. So it's a great time for consumers who are buying through illicit websites or illicit providers, but it's a really fucking tough time for the actual illicit growers or black market sort of sales to actually generate revenue and be profitable. A lot of them are scraping by with just nickels and dimes on a lot of their products compared to what they used to be getting for the prices they were selling their products at. So I do think that for any legal company, you need to be focusing much more on quality than you do on price, and really only be thinking of competing with the price points of the recreational market that's available. There has been a lot of really low-cost extracts that have come out onto the regular recreational market, and they've done extremely well. And a big part of this is making sure that the quality is there. The people who are buying extracts through the recreational market, a lot of them are consumers who are looking for higher end quality. Again, you're looking for those really beautiful live resins, for those perfect diamonds. And a lot of people are delivering on that. So you're starting to see that there's less of a concern strictly about the price, much more of a concern on product quality. And so hopefully Speakeasy will be able to produce products that are going to be at the right quality caliber for them to be selling competitively. Like I said, I think no matter which company you're looking at, if they're talking about specifically competing on price points, that's going to be a difficult endeavor. If they're looking at specifically competing on quality and price points within their recreational tier, I think that that's much more doable, and you've seen a lot of companies begin to succeed with that, especially in their sort of localized markets. Lots of BC craft producers are now starting to succeed quite well in the BC market, and you're starting to see that in Ontario, a little bit in Quebec. Quebec has a lot more difficulties with their recreational market than other provinces, but the general trend that you're seeing is that, again, these companies that are focusing on whether it's dry herb or second generation products, they're really focusing on quality rather than price point, because again, I don't think that they'll ever be able to compete with black market prices until this industry goes sort of global and international. Speaking of global and international, IKNK Farms announced that Podeka SAS, a wholly owned subsidiary of IKNK Farms, has successfully completed its cooperative agreement with SGS Columbia to design, initiate, develop, and implement a normative standard for the international certification of medical cannabis. Now, this certification works to establish a new baseline standard for the quality and safety of pharmaceutical-grade cannabis products known as GPTCP, or Good Production, Transformation, and Commercialization Practices of Cannabis and Pharma. Completing this collaborative certificate with SGS Columbia is a milestone achievement and a reflection of the company's dedication to best-in-class quality for the cannabis industry, said Brian Baca, CEO of IKNK Farms. Now, the GPTCP certificate ensures that the company maintains international standards and differentiates itself by adhering to a global benchmark standard of quality for the production of cannabis. Now, with the collaborative development of the SGS certificate seal of self-regulation and sustainability, industry best practices are promoted and fosters a competitive approach to quality through best-in-class and standardized processes across the industry, providing end consumers with product confidence. Now, the GPTCP encompasses facets of the requirements under various standards such as the BPA, BPM, INV-IMA, the ICA, ISO 9001, SGSST, EU GMP, and both the national, Colombian, and international levels. And the quality certification and delivering a higher caliber products is one of the company's key objectives, supported through operating certifications obtained in its operations, including GACP, GMP Pharma, ISO 9001, and EU GMP. So IKNK Farms, working with SGS Columbia to create sort of an all-in-one encompassing international certification. Again, when you're looking at the overall standards for what this international industry is going to look at, looking at Columbia specifically for regulations and for really just well-established bureaucracy, when you're looking at how this is going to play out for an international medical or international recreational industry, Colombia is a really great place to pay attention to as far as how the regulations have been rolled out, how they've been working with a lot of these different international certification boards to make sure that they are adhering to the highest of standards, so that way when their products do get put into different international markets, they're not going to have any difficulties getting their products into those markets quickly. And again, we've seen this reflected through KHRN Life Sciences, through Pharmacielo, through IKNK Farms, One World Pharma, etc. They've all been quite quick when you're looking at cross-border sort of product launches. It's been fairly simple for them. as compared to other parts of the world. Again, when you're even looking at some Canadian and US-based companies much further behind on these international certifications than a lot of the companies, again, based out of Latin America and out of Israel right now, which are really, again, focused entirely on the globalization of this industry. So having those certifications in hand right out of the gate is essential for these companies. I do think that having this all-encompassing GPTCP certification will be beneficial to the industry, and I think that that is something to look at for what the overall standard could be when you're looking again at how this industry could look in a few years when it is completely globalized. And again, I do think that most of these Latin American companies are a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to adhering to these certifications, and hopefully other parts of the world that are looking at the sort of international scale of the cannabis industry are also paying attention to this and starting to plan ahead as far as making sure that all of their facilities and next generation products will meet these standards, or at least well within the range, so they don't need to adjust too much if these standards do become sort of, again, the overall international standard overall. Lastly today, looking at KHRN Life Sciences, who announced that it's received UK Continuing Professional Development, or CPD, accreditation from KHRN Academy, the company's global medical cannabis education platform. And additionally, following its accreditation, the company has entered into a strategic partnership with Cellin Therapeutics, which is a leader in digital healthcare in the UK and fellow founding member of Project 21, to increase patient access to medical cannabis education initially. Now, KHRN Academy will be made available to prescribers in the UK that have registered with Cellin's MedCan Hub, an emerging education portal, and Cellin is a market leader widely recognized for also launching the UK's first digital pain clinic, which is Leva. Now, Tejinder Virk, president of KHRN Europe, commented, "Over the last year, KHRN has seen a direct correlation between physician education and patient access. With KHRN's Academy's CPD accreditation and through our strategic partnerships with Cellin Therapeutics, we are positioned to reach a growing number of medical professionals and in turn provide patients with greater access to medical cannabis products." Now, in the UK, KHRN continues to leverage educational materials developed by the company to train medical professionals in Latin America, along with clinical data from thousands of KHRN patients. In addition to Cellin's MedCan Hub, accessible to MedCan professionals at medcanhub.cellinhealth.com, KHRN Academy is also available to members of the Medical Cannabis Clinics Society, or the MCCS, and core to the training of prescribing specialists for Project 21, a 20,000 patient observational study backed by drug science in the UK. And to date, the company has trained nearly 1,000 medical professionals in Latin America and the UK. And over the last year, physicians trained by KHRN in Latin America have issued over 13,000 prescriptions with a compound monthly growth rate of nearly 50%. And KHRN Academy will be a platform for sharing the company's clinical expertise in conjunction with clinical data arising from KHRN's wholly owned clinics in Latin America. So KHRN Academy expanding, not only getting its full accreditation there, but also expanding its access through Cellin Therapeutics, basically using telemedicine to expand access through training medical professionals. And I do think that that's a smart process that KHRN is focusing on. Again, when you're looking at their data points that they have available to them through the KHRN Academy and through their KHRN clinics in Colombia, they're extremely valuable for the overall medical industry for cannabis today. And they continue to be as they're moving into different markets. And again, they're also really heavily focusing on one of the elements of this industry that has been sort of, I don't want to say ignored, but definitely left behind a little bit as recreational markets continue to advance in a global fashion. The medical cannabis market has suffered in a pretty significant way, especially when you're looking at the U.S. and Canada. Again, as soon as recreational markets go online in most states, or again in Canada throughout the entire nation, the medical system loses access and loses sort of interest quite quickly. Again, in Canada, we've seen sort of the Shoppers Drug Mart model build out. It has been fairly accessible and has helped at least somewhat deal with the sort of lack of medical access that was developed by the initial launch of recreational markets. But even still, I do think that Shoppers Drug Mart model still needs to be built out a little bit further and does need a little bit more data and probably a lot more training focus. I do like that KHRN and all their clinics in Latin America have been focusing heavily on in-house training of their professional teams, and then expanding that data and using those training programs to expand into the UK. I think that's a really smart strategy, and I do think that that is how you actually expand patient access, is by expanding the professional access. Again, that's a big difficulty when we're looking at both the US and Canada right now. And realistically, a lot of the markets in the EU as well, is that still the vast majority of the medical professional organizations out there do not fully endorse cannabis medication and are not actively pursuing research in it. Again, it's still not something that is sort of well established or well invested into the traditional medical system. And as recreational markets continue to gain momentum, a lot of people from the medical community sort of start viewing cannabis as more of a recreational asset as opposed to an extremely valuable medical asset. And I do think that that sort of balance between the recreational perception and the medical data and perception is always going to be a little bit of a struggle, but through companies like KHRN Life Sciences, who again are really focusing on really building out their medical data as well as medical access on a global scale, hopefully that will track with other areas of the world and other medical professionals, and again expand a little bit more of the medical access, even in parts of the world like, again, Canada and the US right now, that unfortunately are a little bit lacking as recreational markets continue to sort of dominate. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.